Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Amelia and another month is yet again coming to its close. So we are here to set up my reading journal for November and talk about my TBR for November. So let's go ahead and get started with my reading journal. All right, welcome back to my reading journal. So for my November theme, I was kind of deliberating between a coffee theme and then like a baking theme because I wanted something that had like kind of cozy energy. And so I decided to actually combine those two things because, you know, what goes together better than coffee and baked goods? So I sketched in a little latte, did my best to draw out a little piece of latte art, which in real life I cannot do because I'm really bad at frothing milk. I can never get it to froth properly, so I never have the correct like ratios, you know? And then I also did a little croissant and some like coffee kind of like accessories, I would say. So we've got like a milk pitcher and like some sugar cubes, and then it still kind of felt like it was missing something, so I added in a few like small details. We've got like a ribbon, some plant sprigs, and then just like some random coffee beans to add in a even like smaller sized element because it was kind of missing something on that scale. And yeah, so that just to use those to kind of like fill in some of the empty spaces as well as add a few more just like little details, you know, to make it more interesting to look at. And then as far as the font goes, I used one that to me feels very like stereotypical bullet journal. It's like the kind of like chunky cursive that has like a lot of line weight variation. And I did that in like a deep berry color, which you should see soon-ish, to provide like, because like the coffee and the baked goods and like kind of like the plates and all that stuff was like ends up being very brown and beige and kind of boring. So for the ribbon and for the text, I wanted to add a little bit more color in there, so I have like a deep berry color, which you will see soonish. So we are still a few days out from November. It is October 27th as I'm recording this, and it should be the 28th when I release it. But it is starting to change to chilly weather. It's been a very mild, warm October actually. Like the first week of October, I think it was October already at that point, it was like it hit like 30 degrees, and then this week it went up to 21, which is quite toasty in October for where I live. A lot of the time when I was a kid, you would be trick-or-treating in your winter parka. So it's been a very mild October. So we haven't had a frost yet, but it is supposed to be 0 overnight on Tuesday, which is actually like the 31st. So we'll be going into November. So I guess that's kind of good timing on the chilly weather. November is usually quite chilly as we get in towards winter, you know. It's so weird because like fall always feels like it's like 2 months, even though it's like definitely like it feels like September 1st to like the end of October is fall, and then it's winter, even though it's fall until like December 21st or something. But yeah, so hoping it's not going to be too cold next weekend, because I'm actually going to be running my first marathon on November 5th. So I'm hoping for like in the teens at least, although the marathon does start at 8 a.m. and it's kind of like barely light out at that time right now. So it's probably going to be pretty cool when we start. But I mean, I can deal with cool. Like as long as it's not hot, I can deal with it. And it seems pretty unlikely that it's going to be hot. Although when I went running earlier this week when it was 21 degrees, I was like, oh my god, it's so hot. Even though like it has not been that long since it was summer and it was like actually hot. So it just showed you how quickly you adapt, I guess. But I'm so nervous for the race. Like I'm not specifically looking to like beat anybody. Like it's my first marathon, so I'm mostly just like out to finish. Honestly would be great. And even like in general, like with running, I feel like you're mostly competing against yourself, like trying to get your own personal best. Like at least like in a marathon, it's not like, I mean obviously some people probably try to come in first or whatever, but I feel like the majority of people are just like out there to like prove that they can do it to themselves or to like set a personal best, and it's not really about anybody else who happens to be there. But yeah, when I when I first signed up, I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna run a sub 4 hour marathon time. But yeah, I don't think I'm at that level just yet, so I'll honestly take what I can get. I mean, it's really kind of like a mental battle mostly. Like, my cardio level is fine. I could run that long and my cardio level would be fine. It's just that, like, my legs start to get tired and then my brain starts going, like, oh, we should just stop. Like, this is silly. Like, why are we even here? I'm bored. And my knees get sore, so we shall see how it all goes. But we are on the next page now. And so this is my pages read spread. And I decided to try a little bit of a new layout for this month. I still have a lot of pages left in my notebook, and I want to start a new one for next year. So I'm honestly just like trying to fill in as many of the pages as possible at this point so that I don't feel like I've wasted half the notebook. Although I usually use like any unused pages in the back of my notebooks for like either testing out spreads, or if I made a mistake and I need some paper to cover up the mistake I made, then I can like cut it out of the back of another notebook. So I will probably end up using quite a few of the unused pages, but it would still be very satisfying if like the actual content of the notebook went all the way to the back, you know? So even though I am definitely not going to fill this whole one out, I went for a full spread pages layout instead of like the one page that I usually do. And I'm moving my bar graph from the horizontal bars to vertical bars, and I'm writing in a space for each day of the month, so I can also easily see the number of days I read versus didn't. And when I do it the other way, I don't have space for every single day of the month, so I just write in each like day that I actually read when I go to fill it out. So I'm trying something a little different here, but other than that, the graph is kind of the same. Although I'm now realizing that I did not leave a spot for the title of the book. So when I go to fill this in, I'm going to have to work out a spot to put that. Oops. But same sort of scale from like 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 pages. So that's all the same. And then for the decoration, I decided to do decorative elements like on each side, sort of penning the graph in. I did this kind of layout for one of my book spreads. I think it was a couple months ago. And I just like how it makes it look very like contained and complete. So we've got some more lattes, we've got some biscotti, some other sort of treats going on, as well as the same decorative elements that we have on the cover page of like the sort of plant sprigs and the coffee beans. For color, I mostly used the Crayola Colors of the World set because it has like so many variations on like brown and beige, because it's supposed to be like skin tones, I believe, so that like everybody can like find a marker that's kind of like in their skin tone. And then the berry is just like a regular Crayola super tip, and I definitely find myself using these Crayola markers over my expensive Tombos. And honestly, mostly just because the color selection on my Tombos is quite limited. Like, they cost quite a bit more, so I just can't like justify buying the same number of markers at that price. But yeah, that is pretty much all that we have for the November spread, just kind of filling in the plates and then taking a quick look back at the title page and pages read. Alright, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed my reading journal segment. Let's go ahead and talk about the books that I am hoping to read in November. So first up, I am wanting to continue the Rainwild series. So I'm hoping to get to Dragon Keeper as well as City of Dragons. Now, I can't say too much about this series without sort of spoiling like the first book, as well as some other series that take place within this world that are before this in like the timeline. But as I'm sure you could guess from the titles, there are dragons involved, and we're following mostly a couple of young women, although we do get some other POVs, but they're mostly just like side characters to the women who are kind of like a little bit of like societal outcasts in a way, and they're sort of trying to find a path for themselves that is like what they like genuinely want, you know, like striking out on their own and sort of trying to like become who they want to be, I guess, sort of thing. So that is sort of what we started doing in the first book, and I'm assuming we are following the same characters as they continue the quest that they began in the first book, which I won't go into too much detail about because I don't want to spoil the first book, but also the other series. So I definitely am very excited to read these. Rainwild Chronicles is the last series in the Realm of the Elderling series, like Greater World series, that I have to read, and I'm hoping to finish it before the end of this year. So yeah, I'm hoping to get to these two in November, that I can wrap it up in December, or if I get really carried away, then I might read the final one, which I think is Blood of Dragons, in this month as well, but these are the ones I'm aiming to get to. Alright, next up we have Malice by John Gwynne, and this is The Faithful and the Fallen Book 1, and I bought this book because I have read the Bloodsworn Book 1 and 2, which is all it's out so far, and I really loved that. I love the writing style, like the world building, the characters, so I wanted to pick up another series by the author. So I have this one. I'm not like super sure what it's about. We've got like 4 main characters. We've got Corbin, Evnis, Varadis, and Nathair, and I guess we're going to be following those 4 characters. Since the world is broken, the Banished Lands has a violent past where armies of men and giants clashed in battle, but now giants stir anew. Stones weep blood, and there are sightings of giant worms. Those who can still read the signs see a threat far greater than the ancient wars. For if the Black Sun gains ascendancy, mankind's hopes and dreams will fall to dust, and he can never be made whole again. So, sounds exciting. Sounds like it's going to be a very action-packed book, which probably means it's going to be a pretty quick read, even though it's about 600 pages. Actually, the font is quite large. So yeah, the Robin Hobb books tend to be more like political based, which for me tends to like slow down my reading pace a bit, but if this is like the Bloodsworn saga, there'll probably be a lot of action, so I'm excited to get into this. I think it will probably be a great time. Yeah, that is Malice by John Gwynne. Next up, we are jumping back into another one of the long series that I am reading and trying to get close to the end of before the end of this year. As I mentioned in my like home stretch sort of goals video, I am going to be trying to read 2 more books of Wheel of Time before the end of the year, but I'm not committing to actually finishing it this year anymore. So the next step, I have A Knife of Dreams. I'm sure most of you know what Wheel of Time is about. We're following Randall Thor, who is the Dragon Reborn, which is like the chosen one, as he is trying to defeat the Dark One. I can't obviously say too much about this book because I'll spoil the previous 10 books, and I also don't know what's gonna happen. They don't really have descriptions. They're just like the Wheel of Time turns and ages come and pass. So yeah, I have no idea what's gonna go on in this one, but hopefully we will be able to make some steps towards the last battle, because we are getting into the final 4 books now. So I'm thinking that the stakes, tension, action, all that stuff is hopefully going to increase and get more exciting. All right, and then finally we have another book that I also talked about in my year-end goals video, so if you haven't seen that, go watch that after this. But I'm going to be reading The Hobbit by J.R. Tolkien, of course. I'm sure everybody knows what this book is about, but on the off chance that you don't, we are following our main character, Bilbo, who is a hobbit, who are kind of like short species of kind of people, and he is helping dwarves reclaim their lost homeland that has been taken over by a dragon. I'm sure you all knew that, but this is going to be a reread for me, but in order to complete my book bingo spread, I need to read a book that's been on my shelf for over a year, and I have not read this edition of The Hobbit yet. It's a really nice deluxe edition. It's got like art and stuff, so I'm very excited to read from this edition. And yeah, I was intending to reread all of Lord of the Rings this year, but I've so far only got to Fellowship, and it's not really a priority because, you know, it is a reread and I'm hoping to finish some other big series, as I've mentioned. But yeah, The Hobbit is kind of a quick read. It's a children's story. The words are big. So that should be a fun little book to read this month. And yeah, that is actually all of the books that I have on my TBR this month. So I hope you have enjoyed my reading journal setup. Let me know in the comments what you think of the theme, as well as my TBR, and let me know what you're gonna read this month. Feel free to subscribe so that you can see my reviews of these books when I get around to reading them. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.